right?
But what about direct responses to questions? That's not residual.
That's a good question. Speaking of, is anything with the Ouija board? Not yet.
Nobody wants to talk to us.
So yeah, we'll keep it throughout the night, see if something will come through. See, again, I wonder if you are using your psychic subconscious, maybe you're just converting what happened in the past. Just pulling like a psychic would, right? Pulling a past event. Like if somebody's sitting in front of, like, I know this is a bad example, but you know how like John Edwards used to do it. Probably a bad example. Say, I'm picking up somebody with the letter such and such. They're not, a lot of them aren't pulling exact information. In fact, you'd be hard pressed to find a psychic who could. And a lot of them are just kind of trying to convert the energy that they're feeling, which makes me think maybe they're just tapping into what happened in the past. You can come back at me, Ian. just don't punch me in the face. Yes.
We're at the custom house one time doing a. It was like there was the EMFs. We had all the equipment going. There was a group from Niagara, I believe, ghost hunters, and they were in the room where the woman's body is supposed to be buried in the wall.
Yeah, the basement vault.
The basement vault, yep. And so I went in, and they were already in a circle, and everybody was asking questions, and you heard the white noise, and then in between the white noise, you were supposed to hear something. And so everybody took a turn saying something, and I couldn't hear anything. Nobody was saying anything. So I asked, do you even want us here? And a woman's voice in an English accent said, get out. And then a man screamed, a big, rough, gruff voice said, you better go. Like he was angry. So I left because I'm respectful. And they told us to go.
Is it you left because you're respectful, not because you were terrified?
I wasn't actually terrified. I thought it was like the coolest thing ever.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
But I think I do tend to agree with that they were probably more conscious. They probably are more interactive because I don't think that would be a residual. Why would she? I imagine her last words were probably, don't strangle me. Please don't kill me. Why
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh like that. But yeah, no, I agree.
So I would imagine that would be like a residual thing, replaying over and over and over and over again. Him being angry, that would probably be a residual.
So yeah, the fact that she said get out is like she was responding to what you were talking to her. Yeah, the dark
and
lady.
It was like she was selective too, because other people were asking questions, and they were the professionals. They had all the equipment. They were the pros from Niagara.
Yeah.
But when I just said, do you even want us here? Because I was like kind of horrified, thinking like it's kind of like she's in the wall.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a freaky experience all around.
It's a little disrespectful in a way, and I felt kind of compassionate towards her, like empathetic, like you're dead. And everybody's like.
So when she said get out, she was talking to everybody else, not you. Because
Right.
you were being nice towards her.
But I respected her.
But that's for those who don't know, that's the spirit of the Dark Lady.
Yes.
It's considered the main spirit of the custom house. Now, the Dark Lady herself is kind of an interesting occurrence, and this is going to skew off to the side a little bit. But so she was originally talked about in the 1800s because of a poem. If you remember, probably was mentioned on that night. So a poem written by a man named Alexander Wingfield, who worked for the Customs Department, and he did poems and songs on the side. Now, the poem does sound like it's talking about a ghost. In fact, it actually says that it is a ghost, a spirit in it. But there's question. Historians would say that it's actually a metaphor for alcoholism. That's what the Dark Lady is. But in the people take it as a literal thing. It's a ghost, right? And it actually mentions her being like the devil himself. And so we went into that building originally back in 2001-ish and started doing events. And ever since that point forward, we focused a light on the spirit, the Dark Lady. So here we have a question, and I think some paranormal groups have thought about this in the past. Can something be manifested through extreme belief? Okay, so what I'm just to explain before I open it up is the idea that if, and I'm like hundreds of people came out to the custom house over the years through the tours and the hunts, and they were all focused on the ghosts. They all believed in the Dark Lady. They all wanted something to happen. So if all of our energies from hundreds of people over, like, let's say about 14, 15 years, into one focal point of energy. We all believe 100% that it's going to happen. Could it manifest something? And then could that manifestation of that energy then be communicated with? What do you guys think?
It's possible.
It is possible. I agree. However, and I told you this experience already, again at the customs house, I was going up the stairs, and you had given us the history at this point of what the custom house was throughout history, a factory and macaroni factory, everything. You told us all this. You had mentioned the Dark Lady, but you didn't say anything about this next thing. We're going up the stairs. Nobody's on the stairwell with me. The stairwell's very large, wide, across, as you know. And I felt something grab my pant leg and tug on it. And I kind of was like, what the? And again, something tugged on my pant leg just above my knee. And as I said that to you, and I was coming up, and you said, oh, perfect segue to talk about the little boy. So you hadn't put the little boy in my mind, because we didn't hear about the little boy at this point. And I hadn't researched the home prior to coming on the tour, so I didn't know anything about a little boy, but something definitely grabbed my leg.
Actually, you know what's funny? Until you said that, I completely forgot about that experience, because it's been so long since I've done that tour. No, it's true, because I actually felt it personally when upstairs during one of the tours that something grabbed my cape.
Yeah.
Which I wear during the tours. Don't think I just wear a cape. something grabbed my cape, and it's a red cape. Yes, no, it's black. Somebody grabbed my cape and tugged on it during it. I always believed it would be the little boy. All right, that's good. That's good.
There are numerous child spirits there. There's more than just the little boy David. In 1887, when the Customs Department moved out, what passed for the Hamilton Board of Education at that time moved into the building and turned it into a schoolhouse.
Okay.
And I've encountered several child spirits during my visits there.
Yeah, and the little boy on the second floor isn't David; it's another kid. That the people on the first floor, when they were closing down the building, they said they'd hear like little tiny footsteps running back and forth in that hallway, like little kids playing or something.
Isn't David in the basement?
I think most
times, yes.
Yeah.
That's where I found him many times.
But he's been picked up on other floors as well,
also
right?
in the attic.
In the attic.
Because upstairs, I don't know how much he got around upstairs in the attic, but in the corner there was a child's tricycle.
Okay.
And he also seemed to be centered around this little trike.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, no, I mentioned before, so I won't spend too much time, but yeah, the Ghost of David was interesting too, because the hunt that we did at the Custom House went through that transition of one team to the next, and I was the only one who followed from one team to the next, and I never used the boards. I never was part of the communication because I wanted to see what other people got, and David followed. So like you and Trudy, when you picked up on him, I was absolutely shocked, because he was picked up by people you guys didn't even know, you never talked to. And so it's like good proof that the spirit's in there. And yeah, it kind of goes against my theory of most being residual. But again, I say most. Mm-hmm. I don't say all. Mm-hmm. There are rare occurrences, and I've had an occurrence. I've told the story before, my experience at the Merritt House, and something that followed me home afterwards. That was conscious, because I had to actually confront it to get rid of it. But a lot of the experiences I've heard over the years could be tied up as residual. Does anybody else have an experience they want to tell that can kind of go either way?
I had one that was kind of both, and I like the idea better of just a residual ghost. And I fall on kind of both sides of it because of my experience, but I like the idea of a residual ghost because I like the idea of that's like comfort to me. Like to me, the perfect day to die is if you had a list of 20 things you didn't want to do, and then you died first thing in the morning. And so the idea of like still having tasks to do after you're dead, or still having like vengeance, like that's a nightmare. Like that's like my fear of death. But this wasn't in Hamilton. I lived in Sarnia, which is scary without the ghosts.
Oh jeez, we love the people in Sarnia.
I was raised by my grandparents. They had this big old house, and I thought it was ancient, but it turned out it was built in 1957. But it looked ancient, like it was long cavernous halls and whatnot. And I grew up there my whole life, and nothing ever really happened, but my grandma was terrified of staying home alone at night. She would never say why, but she was. So I grow up, I move away, and then both my grandparents aren't really doing well, so I moved back in with them to take care of them. And my grandpa moved we turned like a spare room in the basement into a bedroom for him, because there was 2 big flights of stairs in the house where their bedroom was, and he was getting older and just sick, and it wasn't as easy for him to get up and down. And he spent all his time in the basement den anyway, so he said, listen, if you want, we'll cut out the middleman, make a bedroom in the basement. I can bring you your meals and stuff, like it's not a problem. So we did that for about a year, and one day he comes to me and he's like, we have to put like security on the house. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I want bars on the basement window. And it was a weird request, but it was his house and his money. So I was like, okay, whatever, no problem at all. So I call a hardware guy and they come and they put the bars on, because I'm not handy at all. And a couple weeks later he says, that's it, I'm not sleeping in the basement anymore, I don't care. And I was like, okay, again, it's your house, but like I have to tell you, it's really, really hard for you to get up and down those stairs. Like it's kind of a nightmare. And he's like, I don't care. Like, we'll figure it out. We'll deal with it. I'm not sleeping in the basement. I was like, well, if that's the case, I'll stay in the basement. Because then if I'm coming home late at night, I can just pop in the basement door. My bedroom's right there. I'm not bothering anybody. So we're like, fine. So we switch over. And the basement room was really, really small because it was a makeshift bedroom. And it was just basically one big, heavy, like ancient queen-size bed, and then a little desk at the end and a dresser. And that was all you could fit in there. There wasn't much room between either piece of furniture. And my grandpa was a military man, so he taught me when you make your bed, you make your bed. So you tuck the sheets in carefully, to the point where it's almost hard to roll over at night. So I done my laundry that day. I made the bed. I go to bed around 2, which is normal for me. And I'm laying there, and I wake up in the middle of the night, and first thing I see is she was either really short or crouching, but just this squat old woman sitting right next to the bed. And like in a flash, I jump out of bed. My heart's racing. I just always saw it from horror movies when you see a ghost and scream and have like a moment to think about it. And oh my God, it's a ghost. It was none of that. It was like a flash of lightning. Like I saw that and I was out of bed. I was a chicken, I'll admit it. That was the most scared I've ever been in my life, and it's really hard to spook me. And I go to the den, and I turn all the lights on, and I stay there until the sun comes up. And just my heart's beating like it's never beat before. It's like I don't know. I assume somebody that would run. That's how they feel when they run. And so the sun is up now, and I'm feeling more brave, and I'm like, all right, I got to get some sleep. I'm going to go back to the bedroom. So I walk back to the bedroom, and now I've rationalized it in my mind. And I'm like, you're an idiot. You were having a dream, and you woke up, and it was just like the sleep remnant of a dream that you saw, kind of almost like the colors behind your eyelids. So I walk back to the bedroom, and the door was closed. And I don't remember closing the door because I was so scared, but I was like, whatever, maybe I did. I have no idea what I did in the moment. And at this point, I'm like, it wasn't a ghost. It was nothing. It was a dream. I'll never tell anybody about this, as I tell everybody about this. And I open the door, and the sheets are pulled clear off my bed, still tucked in the bottom, but not a crease in them, as though 2 people, like one had each grabbed a corner at the top and carefully walked it and draped it over the desk. So I'm freaked out. And I was like, I'm not sleeping in the basement anymore. And so years pass, and my grandpa passes away, and my grandma goes in the home, and I buy the house. And I'm going to start renovating this house. And I talked to my grandma, who was the sweetest woman in the world, and she would barely say heck. Like, that was a little too much for her. And I'm talking to her, and I'm telling her, I was like, I'm going to change some stuff on the house. Like, I just want to let you know it was your house, and I hope you're comfortable with that. She looks at me, and she goes, I hope you'll take those damn bars off the window in the basement. And I was like, yeah, I never really asked. Like, what's the deal with that? There's no bars anywhere else in the house. I just took it as a notion my grandpa had one day. My grandma looks at me, and she says, your grandpa was convinced that this old woman was sneaking into his room at night and talking to him while he slept. And then I sold the house and moved to Hamilton. So somebody else's problem now. But that was like the old woman, maybe because I jumped out of bed so quickly. But to me, as scared as I was, it never felt she was trying to communicate with me. It could have been her room or someplace that she spent time in the basement. But then, the flip side of that is somehow the sheets got pulled clear off the bed. So I'm of both minds about it.